I saw something interesting on MSN today, that Colin Kaepernick's attorney issued a statement today in his behalf in response to the recent NFL tweets from President Trump. The statement quoted John F. Kennedy. As John F. Kennedy aptly noted almost 60 years ago, a president should be a moral leader in the crusade for human rights, and he must exert the great moral and educational force of his office to support the right of every American to stand up for his rights, even if on occasion he must sit down for them. And that was written back in the 60s during the time when there were sit-ins, and that was a common way of protesting all over the country, really. But, you know, for him to take a knee and to be disrespected by it, for it, it was kind of stunning to me that the president of the country, you know, this flag stands for what we are and what our ideals are. And one of those ideals is the right for freedom of speech, that we do not all have to follow, you know, anybody's teachings. And he was protesting because of police brutality and other things, so he chose to take a knee. And for a president to say that the piece of fabric is more important than the ideals that it stands for was just pretty shocking to me. And then when he was insisting that the NFL, you know, fire those members, or the team owners fire them for protesting, I was pretty stunned.
Actually, sons of bees. That's what he said, fire those SOBs.
Yes, yeah.
The president.
Yes, yeah. But it was just surprising to me that he didn't have a better grasp of what our rights are.
You know, I'm just a black man that lives in America. I have a lovely wife, 4 lovely children, and I heard somebody talking. I'm a big sports fan. I'm a huge sports fan. Football, basketball, baseball. I love sports. So I'm listening to a coach talk the other day, and it got me thinking, because everything going on, it has a lot of people speaking, and it's Greg Popovich. If you're familiar with basketball, he's the coach of the San Antonio Spurs. White guy, Popovich. He said that none of his white friends, have to talk to their kids about how to act with the police when they walk out of their house. And all of his black friends do. And to me, that's really the central theme about Kaepernick's protest. I have 1 son, I have 3 daughters. My son specifically, since the day he could start understanding, which was probably about 5 or 6, I had to start telling him how to interact with the police. Meanwhile, his white counterparts don't have to worry about that part of life. So again, to me, that's kind of the central theme around all of this. There are terrible things happening to us before there were cell phones, before there were cameras, and they continue to happen egregiously, seemingly even more, even though the evidence is right before everybody's eyes. And Q alluded earlier, also part of the problem is that we just don't understand each other. We don't respect culture in this country, not only amongst black people, but black and white, obviously. And until we make a true attempt to bridge that gap, these things will continue to happen. There's no other way for me to explain it if anybody doesn't get it, that we have to be afraid of the police when we step out of the house. There's no other way to explain it. I mean, I'm not afraid of many things. I'm afraid to get pulled over when I leave out of here and I'm going home.
Do I need the mic or am I good?
No, please, use the mic.
So I'm gonna kind of go right off what John just said, because me being a black man, I feel the exact same way. And to back that up and not make it just sound like we're just black men talking about how we feel about when we go outside. I don't know if anybody's familiar with the book Stolen Lives. This is the second edition. It was written in 1999. 2,000 victims of brutality. 2,000 cases of police brutality. In this second edition, 2,000 cases. Out of those 2,000, over 1,000 of them were what color? Black. I think we have a legitimate reason why we're scared when we leave out and drive home or drive to work, because we usually don't end up at home. And the cases are humiliating. One guy was killed because his football hit the police car. So they killed him. His football. I can't make this up. And feel free, anybody who wants to come up and grab these. So, to me, these two books go hand in hand. 100 Years of Lynching and Stolen Lives. They go hand in hand. Because before, you didn't need the police, because the slave owner can do it. And then the Klan was there, so now you have to get rid of the Klan and you employ the police to do the same job. And this is what we're dealing with. And all this ties into, that's all he was taking the knee for, was to bring some light to police brutality. That's it. That's it. And it just got way out of hand with people talking about disrespecting our song and disrespecting our, well, you're right, it might be your song, your flag. It's not our song or our flag. And that's where the disrespect comes in. My children say the African national anthem in the morning. In our homeschool, they say the African national anthem. We have our own culture. We have our own songs. We have our own flags. Because we're here don't mean that we're supposed to be here or we want to be here. We do have our own culture. We have the first culture, the original culture. And we're forced to do everybody else's, and nobody else has to respect ours. And that has to stop. It just has to end. And it ends with me, because I don't do it. I don't play the game. I won't play it because there's nothing I want. So I'm not going to dance. I'm not going to put on the smiling face when I don't feel like smiling. I'm just not going to do it. I'm going to support Kaepernick for what he's doing. I supported Mahmoud Abdul-Rauf when he did it in the NBA back in the 90s. He didn't stand for the flag either. We forget about that. So this is not new. It's not new. The song is not new. The song was written in the 90s. The song that we just heard. So people were talking about the national anthem back in the 90s. This is not new. All of us have never been happy just to be here. It's okay. It doesn't mean we're angry, we're mad, and we want to fight you. But I don't want to be told what I can and can't do. I don't want to be told, but if I do choose to do something, which is my right, he's expressing himself, which is a part of the Constitution, I think, that they wrote. Freedom of expression. It's being violated. His is being violated. We should be mad at the people who are violating his constitutional right. He's not breaking any laws. He's silently protesting something that's wrong with our country that we don't want to talk about, because it's not happening to the masses. It's happening to people like us. And no one wants to talk about it because of that reason. I believe because of that reason. We can't talk about it because we're expendable, right? First fired, last hired. Yeah. So these things are not new. We just need to talk about them more, but after we talk about it, then we need to act on them. I also have a list of things that white people can do to make things better. A list, written by a white guy, as well as a book, Dear White America, by a good friend, Tim Wise. So I'm a literary guy. I believe everything should be documented. Because when it's documented, you can't say, well, you feel that way, but I don't feel that way. It's not about the feeling now, it's documentation. But we have a lack of education. We don't want to read, and I believe it's a whole other conversation, but phones are a big part of it. We spend too much time looking at our phones. You can't get a real problem from a microwave answer. I don't want microwave food. I want you to take your time and cut it up, cook it, look at it, put it back in the oven, stick a fork in it, make sure it's done, put it back in the oven the way Mom used to do it. But we want to nuke it fast, 3 minutes, and think the problem goes away like that, and it doesn't. It just doesn't go away that fast. Because we all get along around Christmas time, and we're back to raising hell in January. We got to stop that, and it's up to all of us to make sure that we stop that. So, again, I have this book here, like Judgment Day. It was about the 1919 Rosewood, when they killed all the blacks in Rosewood. So all this stuff is documented. We can read this and find out why we are the way we are, if you want to find out, because I don't know who's my friend and who's my enemy. I know John's my friend, but I don't know who's my friend, who's my enemy. I don't know who's really with me, who's not. I think, so what I've noticed, I've been here, white people are my friends until I say something they don't like. Which to me is pretty much every day. So I lose white friends every day. I can't help it. I don't try. I don't do it on purpose, but I'm honest, and I can't sugarcoat how I feel to make you happy, because that's not gonna make me happy. I gotta tell the truth. And the truth is we're in one of the worst countries in the world, and we're lying like we're the greatest. Talking about all these freedoms, and we got over 2 million people in prison, and the majority of those are black. So we gotta stop pretending and just start telling the truth. It's okay, America ain't gonna fall because you tell the truth about it. She's gonna be all right. So let's tell the truth. That's all I'm saying. Let's just tell the truth. So I'm gonna pass it on again because I feel myself getting long-winded, and I don't want to get off my black soapbox. So let me pass it down.
I'm just gonna touch on. Personally, I think it's an insult, an embarrassment, a sham, a mockery that this country was built because a group of people felt they were being persecuted by another country, so they left to find their freedom, and then they go get another group of people and enslave them, and then continue this systematic racism to keep them down. It's a farce and a joke. And until we face that as a people in the country, we're going to continue to have problems. In Germany, it's illegal to deny the Holocaust. It's illegal. You will go to jail for saying it did not exist. Just like I feel it should be illegal for anybody to say that Black Wall Street did not exist and we were killed and terrorized by our own government. That's a fact. That's not an opinion. That's not a made-up story. Tulsa, Oklahoma, millionaires, black millionaires were living there, and the government came in and wiped them out. Similar to Rosewood, and there are so many other stories, but that's what I find so difficult about living in this country, that it's one big contradictory slap in the face to every black person walking in this country. The anthem, the flag, I don't even know if people know that there are multiple verses to the anthem, and there's a verse specifically hailing the killing of slaves who converted sides to fight for the British because they wanted to be free. So to hell with your flag and your song as far as I'm concerned. Because as Q said, it wasn't written for us. It wasn't meant to be a symbol for us. And that's the beauty of this country at this point. I'm a realist. I'm here in 2017. That's the beauty of it. I can sit up here and say that. Just like Kaepernick. He can say how he feels. He should be able to say how he feels. That's how the first white people in this country got here. That was their premise, to get away from not being able to express themselves in the country they were in.
And he can say what he feels. He's allowed to do that, but it did cost him his job. And, and I know now he's filing suit for collusion because other teams refuse to consider him as well. But I'm just remembering too, when I saw your shirt, I can remember the Mexico City protests when a lot of the black athletes, in recognition of the Black Power movement, raised their fist when the anthem was being played and they were receiving their medals. And that was, what, 50 years ago?
1968.
Yeah.
And they lost their medals. They took their medals from them.
Yes, that's true, and, but it's, I think, you know, it's very likely that a white player could get away with quite a bit. I mean, they can get away with beating up their wives sometimes, and they still manage to keep their jobs. And I know we have one black coach, but I don't think we have any black owners in the NFL. No. And I think that's part of what's going on there now too, that they're seeing, I noticed last Sunday, and I don't know if this was with every game, but I think it was on CBS that they did not show the anthem. They had the 4 talking heads, and then it went right into the coin toss, or the coin toss. And I don't know whether, I'm sure it's because CBS is having pressure from their advertisers, and, you know, they're losing a lot of viewers. And so I think that was some of the reason why that they're just now choosing to ignore it. Yes?
I was at an HBCU football game this weekend. Does everybody know what HBCU is? Historically Black College and University. And if you hear HWI, that's Historically White Institution. And then you have your historically Indian institutions as well, American and Native peoples. But nonetheless, at that game, it was interesting that he was talking about the Black national anthem, because at that game, that was the only anthem that was sung. And I was surprised, not displeased one way or another, but I was surprised.